most of you may not be knowing what I do by the side, which is also proving now to be, one of my sources, significant source of income. Maybe if I could just share with you what I also do, you guys could not be knowing. It's good you get to know because I always get my clients. I get most of my clients here from my students. Yeah, I hope you're able to see the screen. So that is the license of our company farm from ISPAC, okay? Farm Annual Practicing License 2024, Category C, Composite. Composite license, of course, it means I'm allowed to do most of these things in financial reporting advisory, financial management advisory, everything, including auditing and assurance services. So this is certified that our company, having complied with the provisions of the Accountants Act, number 15 of 08, is hereby licensed to practice in Kenya as a certified public accountant firm under practicing firm number PF 1256. This authority is valid up to 31st December of December 2024 and is renewable annually, given under our hand and the common seal of the Institute of Certified Public Accountants of Kenya, like that. So what I'll be giving you here, ladies and gentlemen, will be very, very practical audit, how we do audit in the industry, how we do audit in practice. Now, and the very first topic that I want us to look at today is what we call practice management. If you're given, like, for example, Aura and Core here, how will you manage this practice to ensure that it is profitable and you are able to give the required quality? Because if you're not giving required quality, then that license will be revoked. You will stand to lose your clientele big time moving forward. So whenever we talk of practice management, ladies and gentlemen, it will be very important for you to know that, audit, tax practitioners, tax practices, these are businesses. At the end of the day, we must engage in a way that we shall be able to make what here? Make a profit. So whenever we talk of practice management, ladies and gentlemen, normally look at so many things. So we are saying that, of course, profit has to be there. Otherwise, how will you be able to get enough resources here to do quality audit? Profit has to be there. So therefore, profit to be there, number one, I must ensure that so contracting must be perfect. Contracting. How do I contract in this case here? Clients that I get. All right. So in this case here, I must be able to do very good letters of what here? Engagement. Letters of engagement, where we spell everything, including how I'm going to, the rate at which I'll be charging my audit fees. All right. Including in this case here, responsibilities of directors. And this is where very, very many audit firms, especially the upcoming ones, the small ones, go wrong. Because you see, you get into an engagement, the directors in this case here do not know their responsibilities. For example, they do not know that they're required here to produce financial statements themselves. So you come in with a lot of expectations gap. So these guys expect you to even produce those financial statements at a fee that you quoted. And you quoted, in this case here, a fee just to do audit, to come and look at the financial statements that they have produced with a view of providing what we call an opinion. So this contracting is very, very important. Ladies and gentlemen, after that, then I'll have to look at, how do I handle issues to do with quality? Because quality, at the end of the day, we are going to make our opinion based on evidence that we collect. And this evidence must be sufficient and what here? Appropriate. Sufficient is about what here? The quantity of evidence we collect. We must collect enough, adequate evidence. Then, of course, in this case, when we talk of appropriate, we are looking at what here? Quality. And this quality of the work that we do normally rests on who? The managing partner. The managing partner of any engagement is the one who is charged with the major responsibility of ensuring that quality work is done. And when I come, for example, to your audit firm or where you guys will be working, if we come in, if you invite us, of course, as peer reviewers, we come to look at the kind of work you're doing. The moment you give me your files, I'll be able to know whether this work is quality or not. Once I see your working papers, I mean, you know, there should be very good indication who has done what kind of a job, who has reviewed with appropriate OTS signatures. All right. So quality management is something that we're going to really look at here. And of course, ladies and gentlemen, we have even how we accept the jobs here. Acceptance. I mean, for me to be able to get here, I have to be very careful. There is no auditor who runs away from good clients. So even before you consider accepting a job, like now we are almost signing up a job with a very great client of ours, will become a client, of course, in Nakuru and Assurance What here services. So the very first thing we'll have to do here is to, ask questions here. Why do you want to, you as managers, why do you want to change your auditors? Then they'll tell us so many things. Professionally, you must give us, in this case here, permission to talk to the outgoing auditors professionally. So all this is all about what here, how we are managing our practice. So this client acceptance. We have in this case here issues to do with what here? Issues to do with sourcing of clients here. How do we do tendering? We have tendering faults here, tendering. You know, there are guys in this case here, whenever they just hear that there is a job somewhere, they simply run to the job without looking at the bigger picture. Tendering, the tendering process is very, very important. It is in this tendering process that we'll be able to look at, what kind of resources are required. Do you have resources that are really needed for this kind of an engagement? Because not all audit engagements will be the same. I rarely get audit engagements which are the same. All these engagements in this case are quite different, significantly different. Because you will go get, in this case here, some firms that have very strong internal control systems, and some other firms in this case here may not be having those internal control systems to rely on. So it will be very, very important for you to master this. Once you master these things, you're like, now, how do we source for these clients? How do we do these tenders here? And ensure that we avoid things like, for example, lowballing. Lowballing. When you are tendering, the first requirement you will be required here to go through is to evaluate the work. What kind of work am I supposed to come and do here? Approximately how many hours am I going to put in here? Which kind of resources do I need in this case here for this kind of assignment? Even partners, for example, if a partner will be putting in 10 hours, their partners, in this case here, for example, each hour, their rate card is 30,000 per hour. So I have to look at all that. Do I, for example, if for example, today, I got a job to go and audit some Navy vessel in the seas. As an auditor, what I know, it is the audit practice that I have. The procedures, I'll be able to apply them very well. But there are very, very many things regarding these ships that I may not be able to do them myself. So at this tendering stage, I'll have to consider whether I will need services of another practitioner outside there. So we shall be able to look at each of these, but most importantly, as I get to my book here, to read the book, most importantly, now we are 48. Now we are 48, which is very, very good. Now we are 48, which is very, very good. Now, ladies and gentlemen, most importantly is to ensure that we shall be able to do what we call quality work. Otherwise, your practice will not grow. This is all you'll get, for example, like now we are talking of the big fours. Why should we talk of the big fours? Since I came into accountancy, all those days, and it's over 23 years, we are still talking about big four. Why can't we have our and company CPA? Rising, and then of course it also overtakes like one of these big fours. It's because we are not managing our practices very well. Of course, not all of us, but most of us. Because if you manage your practice very well, trust you me, there is quite a lot in terms of accountancy work, bookkeeping work, in terms of taxation work, in terms of auditing, and other advisories, consultancy works around what your CPA, a lot of work, which if you were to manage your practice then very well, every year you'll be growing, and very soon you may not be able to reach there near those big fellas, because you know them, they have quality systems. They have been in business for long. They know how to do their tendering very well. All right. But you will be able to reach there. You'll be able to reach there in terms of what your finances. But remember, ISPAC is very, very fair. ISPAC is very, very fair. It doesn't look like, I mean, they are big fours and then we are, no. ISPAC puts as at what year? Same wavelength. For example, if today you go and look at PwC's license, their license is as good as mine. It's composite. It's as good as mine. Only that now what I need to do is to become more aggressive in terms of what here, I mean, sourcing for clients professionally. You don't advertise auditing services anyhowly. You must ensure that as you look for these clients, you don't put ISPAC into disrepute. You don't, for example, charge contingency fees. You can't start telling people that if, for example, you hire Aura and company, then, and of course, pay me like $1 million, I'll be able to give you, in this case here, an unqualified opinion. No. Or if, for example, you pay me this much, then I'll be able to ensure that your tax obligation, contingency fees is not allowed. So it's all about us really coming to terms on how do we manage our practices, and then we shall be able to go to great places. Ladies and gentlemen, remember, under quality, basically quality, the kind of opinion we'll give, it is basically dependent on the evidence. This evidence, for you to be able to get proper evidence, of course, you must be knowing the audit procedures here. So we have here evidence. We have here evidence. No, that's not very clear. So we have here evidence, and then we have here procedures, the procedures. Evidence versus what here? Procedures. Evidence versus procedures. Evidence versus procedures. Evidence versus procedures. So we have here evidence. Now you have to start writing really versus procedures. So procedures, you guys, you must have heard of an audit procedure tests here. What we call the substantive tests. So these substantive tests, we normally talk over how many of them. So in this case here, we have AEIOU. AEIOU. Very important. You must quote these in your exams. Very, very important. AEIOU. So R stands for what here? Analytical procedures. Analytical procedures. Analytical procedures. We have here inquiries, and confirmations. You must do a lot of this whenever you are auditing. We have here inspection of documentation. Inspections of documents. We have observation of processes in action. As those people are acting, if it is stock count, you are there observing, using your eyes. Observation. Then we have in this case here what we call recalculation. Recalculation. Please write like that. And then, of course, once you write, give me a signal, put your thumbs up like this. Give me a signal, put your thumbs up like this. I'm so sure there are so many friends of yours who would want to benefit out of this great class. You guys are not fair to your friends. It seems you guys are not very good people because you don't want to call your friends. I mean, you should have even picked, I mean, this is very, very good. This is very, very good content that your friends would really, really wish to get. So anytime, and I'll explain this, evidence, how we collect evidence. If you're a good auditor, practicing auditor, you must always know DADA 3. You know, our women are very good, and that is why some of us can never think of polygamy. If, for example, I was to try a second wife today, I'm so sure I'll be able to even want a third one, isn't it? So whenever we talk of evidence, always you have to remember data three. Very, very important. So data three, what are we talking about here? You must be able to look at the underlying documents. Somebody has told you in this case here too, for example, just audit, a simple thing. For example, like this question that came the other day, where the director had said that, hey, our brand will not be amortized. Hey, our brand will not be amortized. So you see, when I go to, audit, this kind of what here, an assertion, all right? Then there are those documents that I will need. For example, I would want them to give me a policy. It has to be in writing, right? So there must be documents here. If it's a brand, of course, that you have bought, you must have bought this brand, in this case here, from what here? From another person. Because remember, we only capitalize brands that we have bought. Internally generated brands are never capitalized, are never taken to our balance sheet. All right? So in this case here, then, if they bought this and this is why they are capitalizing, I would want to see, in this case here, contracts there. And once you've given me contracts, ladies and gentlemen, a contract, for example, from this person a contract you had with this person that sold to you, I'll be able to say, this person sold this much. I'll be able to follow. To this other gentleman, for example, sold to you this brand. It could be, for example, a brand like KFC. I'll be able to follow the franchisor, for example, and get to ask. And that is why we are told here in this case, if you remember, the concept of an inquiries. Because when I'm inquiring, ladies and gentlemen, I must inquire from internal sources, directors, for example. I want them to tell me in writing, for example, why are you not amortizing your brand? So I would want to do a lot of inquiries here, right? So in this case here, documentations. There is no way you will tell me that you are answering a question on audit procedures in advanced level and you're not mentioning appropriate documents there. So if it is just sales, for example, I would want to see invoices. I would want to see, for example, how receivables have been paying. So I would want to even check the bank statement to see, for example, this receivable paid like 10 million. Did it hit the bank account? So documents, you must always discuss documentations. Otherwise, if you're not discussing documentations, then you'll be surprised you can't get even a single mark. And that is why you'll get even here, if you guys were to be very, very honest, you'll get somebody who's doing a AAA 3 times. And yet this is not a stupid student. Trust you me. Even after exams, they'll always call me and they tell me, Mwalimu, this one I've passed because of how they have been able to write. But again, when results come, they come like this, down. It's because there are key things these students are missing out. All right. So we must be able to appreciate documents. If we are talking about motor vehicles, then we must be able to talk about logbooks. If it's land, we must be able to talk about what here title deeds. So documentations, that one, I don't know why Stanley is laughing there. I want to believe Stanley, this paper has never harassed you. So then we have in this case here, if there are assets involved, you would want in this case here a lot of evidence about these assets' existence. Are they existing? So if it's a bus company, call upon that bus company, tell them, on this particular day, I would want to see your buses. When you see their buses, try to reconcile, because this is Kenya. Not even Kenya alone. People, they can even go and hire buses that day to show you, and even put, tell you that these buses here belong to RCM College. They put even banners there. People do crazy things. So in this case, you try, even those logbooks they'll give you, you have to really follow them through, even to NTSA. It's very, very important. These are things we'll be teaching you as we progress. So we have here the concepts. Are there assets involved? Now, do we have directors in the company? Of course, yes. These directors must always give you part of their story. They must give you letters of what year representation. So what you do as an auditor, and this is something we do every day, I will always go there as a friendly talk to a director's office, CEO's office, friendly talk. So you start like, this thing, how do you do it? The guy is very, very friendly. But when you leave, remember as auditors, we are very skeptical. This guy in the future, whatever he has told you verbally, he will be able to repudiate. He'll come and say, no, I never told this gentleman like that. So as I leave the office, I'll ask this guy here to drop me an email to write a letter of representation about our discussions. So he puts down on paper, in writing, whatever he says here. So these directors, we shall be doing a lot of interviews with them. And then, of course, ask them to, put whatever they are writing, whatever they are saying in writing. Very, very important. Very, very important here. Now, from there, ladies and gentlemen, it will be very, very important to also ensure, please listen, it will be very, very important to also ensure, as you're talking with these directors here, we have in this case here, third parties involved. Third parties involved. So directors and third party, these are the inquiries and what here? Confirmations. Inquiries and confirmations. Can you kindly confirm whether we are together? Kindly confirm whether we are together there. I can't just continue like that without that confirmation. Thank you. I can see Stanley has confirmed. Mary, we are together. All right, then we are together here. So directors, it's not only directors, this is just for, they are called acronyms or mnemonics. For us in this case here to do what here to just appreciate the whole cycle of auditing here. To be able to do quality work, then we must be able to do a lot of, there is a lot of information seeking within the organization. Remember, we are not going to make an opinion just like that. We are going to make an opinion based on evidence that we collect. So to collect this evidence, we're going to talk to internal people. We are going to talk in this case here to what here somebody, people from out there. So when, for example, I ask directors, I come and ask directors, how was the bank balance? For example, at times as an audit again, you have to even assume that you are a little bit crazy. Ask them, in this case here, how much was the bank balance by end of last year, 31st December. Of course, they know you have seen that figure in the financial statements. They tell it was 10 million, not a problem. Just put that down in writing and then give me permission to go and ask the same question from your bank. Because in the financial statement, they can just put anything. Even on their own representations, they can just put 10 million. But you see now, once you carry that letter, which they have given you, all right, like you're an agent, all right. In this case, you are taking this letter to the bank, and the bank will be able to write to you directly as their auditor, all right. So this is evidence now coming from where? From external sources, which of course is much better than internal evidence. We're not saying that internal evidence should not be followed through. Internal evidence is also good, but external is always better. So third-party confirmations are very good. When they come and tell you that, hey, we expect to receive 20 million from somebody, these guys may be just wanting to build their assets up. So if they expect you to, or rather if they expect to receive 20 million, you tell them, no problem, let me do what we call a debtors circularization. So then I'm talking to my third parties. So whenever you are answering questions of evidence collection, you are answering questions on audit procedures, you must always have this. Then we have here, this A stands for accounting systems. Accounting systems. Accounting systems. These accounting systems, first of all, I would want to test them. Are they working very, very good? I would want, in this case here, for example, to even put in some dummy information into the systems here, even to help me to see whether the system is really very good, all right? When especially I'm doing the calculation here, when I'm doing the calculation, ladies and gentlemen, I'll go and ask these guys here, for example, which system are you using for bank reconciliations? They tell me it is this and this. Then give me your bank statement. Give me, for example, your cash, and then take me to the accounting system. As an auditor, I'm required to be proficient in these systems here. All right. So anytime I'm talking about collecting evidence, I must always be talking about these things. I'm collecting information from the systems. I'm getting information from directors. I'm getting information from underlying documents, from directors, from third parties. And then I will be able to remember. Like now when you talk about analytical procedures, in analytical procedures, we are basically computing ratios. We're looking at the bank statements, computing ratios, observing the trends. When we talk about analytical procedures, we are also talking about comparisons. So for example, if somebody tells you that their profit margin is 10%, I mean, there is a free mark being given to you there because you will say that I'll compare their profit margin with the industry profit margin. I mean, if RCM says it has made a profit margin of say 30%, I mean, I'll be able to go and look for industry information. If the industry information is telling me that colleges averagely, they're getting 50%, that's just an assumption because it can't reach there. They're getting 50%, then I've got every reason to raise what we call audit flags. I have to flag those kind of evidences here and seek for more evidence. How comes in this case here you are way too low? Is there anything that you guys are trying to hide? Remember, auditors, we are required here to be very skeptical. Whenever you see any deviation, any disparity, we are required here to be very, very skeptical, doubt, start looking for information, more information, more information. So then we shall be looking at this, but there is no way we can talk about practice management, ladies and gentlemen, without looking at issues to do with quality. And the quality, as you shall be seeing, of course, we've said the managing partner of this engagement is the one in this case who should be able to ensure that quality is not compromised. And of course, he doesn't do this work himself. So then he has to make it like a daily routine, preaching to the people who are doing here, the audit seniors, audit managers, even the assistants here that are engaged in this assignment, telling them every day the importance of ensuring that they do everything of high quality. All right. Now, ladies and gentlemen, there is something that I have to mention a little bit here. I mean, when you give me work to do for you, when you give me work to do for you, when you give me work to do for you, normally what I will do is this. To ensure that everything is really of high quality, this is what I will do. This is what I will do. So once we've been able to do the contracting very well, then I would want to do the internal control systems tests of internal controls. Test of internal controls. And there are two possibilities. This test in this case here may not be working. The tests are working, the two possibilities. So if they are not working, then it means that I will do what we call reduced substantive tests. I will do the reduced substantive tests. No. Sorry for this. If the tests, not working, I should be just right like this. If they are not working, now I do the full substantive tests here. If they're not working, I do the full substantive tests. But if, for example, they are working, then I'll be able to do what we call the reduced substantive tests. Remember, substantive test comes from the word substantial. Substantial. So substantial will be able to do a lot of work. Now listen, under reduced substantive test, remember here, I will now work on a sample basis. Small sample, actually, I should write here the word small sample, less than 30, small sample, because the systems here are working. Please allow me to give you a story, or rather an example that I normally give my team whenever you're going to do any audit, especially SME good audits here. Now, it is not that doing a test of internal control systems is simpler. Why we do internal control systems test? Basically, it's because if you go to a big firm like Safaricom, you see Safaricom has got a million or even billion of transactions every day. As an auditor, there is no way you'll tell me that we'll be able to go through all those transactions. If you go through them, then you will be doing substantive. So in this case here, I would rather just test the controls. If I'm satisfied that the controls which they've been able to put down in their manuals, etc., if I realize they are working, then I'll be able to rely on them. Not fully, not 100%. Of course, I have to test transactions, a few of them. All right. But at the end of the day, I'll be able to rely on them to make my opinion. But assuming we have got a big house, such a big house somewhere, very big house. So this big house has one door, And this door, for example, is being manned by how many soldiers? 2 soldiers. So there's a daytime soldier, there is an evening soldier. So in this case here, these soldiers, their work is to ensure that they only open these doors whenever there are clients entering into the company. And there are very good procedures here. I mean, for example, if it is the daytime, in this case here, for example, soldier here, this soldier will come and outside of that, talk to the client, first of all, gather their identification, get to know what they're coming to do in the farm, etc. And then they are able to do what here, now they are able to allow them in. So there is a control that is being put there. And then there is a handover procedure. How do you hand over to the night guard? The night guard, in this case, will be able to, I mean, the control system is really, really too great. It has been put down in a very good way. And then now as an auditor, mine is simply to come and just look at where the door most of the time is, whether this door is, where they're following the procedure. So it will be not beneficial to me to start looking at like the whole thing, like how these soldiers, no. At times, you could be better off just going to test the transaction yourself. So go in there as an auditor instead of looking at the controls. If the transactions are very, very few, ladies and gentlemen, you are better off in this case here doing the substantive, doing the test of details, doing in this case here what we call the transactional tests. So we only go testing these internal control systems if there are so many transactions. If the transactions are so many, then it will be good for me to start looking for a way of hiding, a way of running away from these transaction tests, from what we call full substantive tests. Ladies and gentlemen, please listen. And I would want you to listen to me very well. Please listen here. Listen here. Listen here. I want to make this very, very practical. You see, you will get a situation where you have to know that these internal control systems are supposed to protect companies against fraud. So basically, there are hedging techniques, there are hedging instruments. Hedging means protection. So in this case here, when we have this internal control system, then we have an umbrella. We have what we call an umbrella. Umbrella in this case that is supposed to shield us from this rain of fraudsters. Now please listen. You will go to an organization, realize that this organization has put on very good umbrellas. And if it has put on very good umbrellas, these umbrellas called the ICS, then as an auditor, I will depend on now this ICS and do very little audit tests. What I'm calling small sampling. Why? Because the internal control systems are strong. So if they are strong, ladies and gentlemen, I will not do full substantive. But now you'll go and get, for example, a big company, big as myself here, but now carrying an umbrella of a young kid. Yeah, an umbrella which can't even cover me fully. So it means that these internal control systems are weak. And if they're weak, then I will not rely on them. If they are weak, I will not rely on them. Now I have to test those transactions as many as I can. I have to do what we call full substantive tests. And these full substantive audit procedures are the ones you guys are hearing me talking about what here? AEIOU. AEIOU. So whenever you are over AEIOU, of course, in this case here, you will always remember that these are substantive tests. When they are full, now you test, you put these procedures to like virtually every, and the audit is going to be very expensive. And that is why the responsibility of putting internal control system is vested on the directors. If the directors would want to save the company from high audit fees, let them put strong internal umbrellas, internal control systems. All right, so you can avoid, in this case here, I mean, auditors do not have to apply now all this. So there are two things as I go through something very serious here. There are two things I'm leaving for you. We have AEIOU, and then we have in this case here DADA 3. Are you able to remember what this stands for? Let me see, DADA 3. Very, very important. Very, very important. Let me see where they are following. DADA 3. DADA 3. Yeah, like documents. We have assets involved. Very, very important. We must speak to the directors. A lot of speaking to directors if systems are not working. A lot of now investigating the computerized accounting, what you see, systems here. We must talk to third parties. We must talk to third parties. Very, very important. Ladies and gentlemen, then I would want us to straight away, because we promised this should be an hour, 1 hour class. I would want straight away, I take you through 2 topics that we shall be able to look at past paper questions from later. Thank you, Arbe. Now, so I want to take you through what we call quality management. Very, very examinable, highly examinable. And I'll read it through pretty fast. I'll read it through pretty fast. Elements of a quality. Let me stop sharing first of all and increase the font size. Yeah. So we have here elements of a quality management system and practice. Leadership responsibilities. The issue of what you're having, a managing partner, and of course, all the other managers understanding issues to do with quality. Then we have the ethical requirements. We must, ensure that we follow these ethical requirements. Otherwise, whatever we shall produce will be having a lot of, when you have some auditors, in this case, ladies and gentlemen, having interest, self-interest, then automatically whatever you do will not be quality. Acceptance and continuance. What resources do we have? If we don't have enough resources, then we'll not be able to really put up quality work. We have engagement performance. When we are performing, we must be able to. We have monitoring and remediation. Ladies and gentlemen, auditing requires a lot of monitoring and evaluation. If somebody has done this, always review. If there is a problem, then that has to be remedied. Overall responsibility, of course, this falls under the managing partner. There must be lots of documentations, because even ISPAC, when they come to check your documentations, check quality, they'll have to look at the documentations, ladies and gentlemen, here. Then I explain here, element, leadership responsibilities, engagement partner responsible for managing and achieving quality. Please, engagement partner, this is your sole responsibility. All team members responsible for quality, open and robust communication, professional skepticism. So, of course, we are saying here that the managing partner is the one who is charged with that role of ensuring that we achieve quality, but he has to ensure that the same is cascading down to all members. And then, of course, you must be professionally skeptical. Skepticism is about doubting. You are doubting everything. When somebody gives you some information, you must take it with some pinch of some salt there. For you to be able to do more, research. Ethical requirements. You must identify, evaluate, and address all ethical threats. Remain alert for ethical breaches throughout engagement. Ladies and gentlemen, please remember the ethical threats. This is very, very common in your exams, ethical threats. I know you know them. Ethical threats, I know you know them. Do you know them? Yeah, ethical threats. We always talk about Mr. Surface. Mr. Surface, I'm so sure you must have watched some video on this. So I don't want to, yeah, Surface, yes. Surface. So for example, we have in this case here self-what here, like self-review. Self-review, or self-interest, advocacy, familiarity, intimidation. I don't have to belabor explaining this because, you know, ladies and gentlemen, when these auditors are reviewing their own work, then there will be quality issues. Because you can imagine when you have what we call non-assurance services, you've been given tax to compute, you as an auditor, and then you compute that tax. When you compute that tax, the same figure you have found there will find its way to the financial statements. You say tax obligation is 10 million and it has not been paid. So it's a liability, a current liability. So the 10 million goes to the balance sheet as a liability, current liability. And then the same financial statements are approved by directors and they're given to you as auditors to audit. So you see later on, when you are looking at, for example, like non-current assets, you'll be very skeptical. Skepticism means that you'll be able to collect more evidence. When you reach at this 10 million, which is the tax obligation, because you're the one who did the figure, you will not even review because, I mean, all of us will tend to think that we are really, really very, very excellent. So whenever you are doing some other engagements for this client, chances are the quality of what you'll give them will not be very good, not unless you really mitigate. You know, there are also ways of mitigating. You can mitigate against, in this case here, this kind of self-review threat by building what we call a Chinese wall. A Chinese wall. So this Chinese wall have two teams. Have an engagement team, if for example, it's Aura and the core. If it's Aura and core, have in this case here two teams from Aura and the core. One of them in this case is for the audit engagement, and maybe another different team for taxation. All right. Then we have in this case here advocacy. Advocacy is very, very, you know, once, ladies and gentlemen, if for example, I've been out, like myself, there are firms that I've always been saying they're very good. There are some firms that I've always been saying that they're very good. I've been marketing them outside here. So if I've been marketing you outside here for so long, then the whole world knows that Aura has a stand on this organization, knows that this organization is very good. The whole world knows that Aura has been saying that this organization is very good. So when I'm auditing them, I mean, if I've been there like advocate, working with them in the past, in other assignments outside there, at times in this case here, perhaps I've even been in a court of law defending them as a witness. You know, all that is advocacy. All right. Then automatically there is no way I'll be able to do quality work because I'm already compromised. Already I am compromised. All right. Then we have in this case here familiarity, the same explanation. You've been with this organization for the last 10 years. For the last 10 years, honestly, you'll have done so much. So you're so familiar with this. Your family. And once you're family, that is automatically, I mean, you have an interest to protect those guys. You can't betray them. You will think that they're like a small god. They can't steal. So you drop your skepticism guard. All right. And then we have, of course, intimidation. Auditors, we normally get ourselves here quite a lot. A lot. Like there are assignments, we can't mention them. I mean, there are assignments you go. And you're told, of course, we know you have done this and this and this. Like there is a one we did for national audit. All right. National audit nowadays, they are subcontracting work to us, to private practice firms. And then as you're getting out of the offices of these guys, assuming it's a CDF or whatever, then these guys will tell you that, remember, this is public. This is public. If you give a bad opinion on us, then once you start hearing that, that's intimidation and due pressure being put on you to give a good report. So with that kind of pressure, and we're human beings, we love life, chances are I will give a good report. I will give a good report. So when it reaches there, ladies and gentlemen, then that's poor quality job. Because now you're going to form an opinion without looking at the correct evidence you collected there. All right. You're the best thing to do, the most wonderful thing to do as an auditor is to resign. You resign. Because otherwise, whatever, if you are that fearful, you will not be able to do your work diligently here. Then, of course, you have self-interest. This self-interest, assuming in this case here, my wife works for Safaricom as a CEO. I mean, we are drawing livelihood from this firm. So if I'm appointed in this case here to go and audit them, then I will not be able to give them a fair opinion. My opinion in this case here will be compromised because of that self-interest, because of the connection that we have. So it will be very, very important whenever you're talking about quality management, practice management, it will be very important for us to always think about to think about these ethical threats. Acceptance and continuance, integrity and the ethics of the client. Ladies and gentlemen, once you hear that some of your client directors, for example, they are known for money laundering, you are better off doing what you're resigning. All right? Or even not accepting that work. Because nowadays, as auditing firms, we sign contracts. Anti-money laundering, what-year contracts. So the moment you go with those guys and they're paying you lots of money, it's like one day you will find yourself in a bad situation where you are being accused of cleaning money, laundering. Dirty money, stolen money, for example, from government, stolen money from, for example, these terrorism activities, finding their way to you. And then, of course, they will use law firms. They'll use, in this case here, accounting, auditing firms to do layering, to wash their money and be able to teach you money laundering, how it happens. All right. And then when they use you, they'll give you like 10%, they take 90%, but now we'll take burden of this money laundering. It is you as an auditing firm. And remember now, the moment you've started doing this money laundering and etc., all those are fraudulent activities that will make you lose your objectivity of looking for evidence to provide quality opinion, quality job. So sufficient and appropriate resources must be available for you to be able to provide good quality. Competence and capability of the team, please always ensure that you are competent. Engagement resources, human experience and expertise, professional skepticism and judgment, technological communication, automated tools and techniques. Do we have technological capacities? Intellectual, consistent application of professional standards, very good. So engagement, performance, these people when they are performing, the team needs very, very good direction. Supervision, review, engagement quality review, pre-issuance review of significant judgments and conclusions. I don't want you to cram anything, don't cram anything. I just want you to have like a high level. When I take you to your past papers, you'll be able to see what I'm talking about. Monitoring and remediation, monitor the firm's quality systems, evaluate severity of deficiencies, investigate root cause, remediate any deficiencies, etc., overall responsibility. Prior to dating auditor's report, partner ensures the involvement has been sufficient and appropriate. Because I told you that the overall responsibility falls on the managing partner. Time review of work, evidence of partner's direction and supervision. There are places I worked as a junior auditor, and you would realize that you're building up your file, And then the partners up there are not reviewing. I mean, reviewing should be like every 2 days you must review work, so that if these junior auditors messed up, they should be able to get, in this case here, a good chance to rectify. Don't wait until these guys build up. I mean, you know how these working papers are applied. I mean, they're always built on each other like that. So if they messed the initial ones, then it will not be very good for you to come and correct them. No. You should be, I mean, depending on the size of the farm, I always recommend, like myself, because I'm the managing partner of Audit & Co, I review often. Fortunately, nowadays, these things, I mean, somebody just scans them and then they put this on your email. You're able to review from wherever, make notes inside there, and then work continues. All right, so documentations, conclusions reached in respect of fulfillment of quality responsibilities, conclusions resulting from consultations, confirmations on anything to do with quality, ladies and gentlemen, you must always have it done what year? You must always have it. So you must always have it documented. Now, engagement, performance, direction. I'm just finishing. This is the last section. Direction. Informing team members of their responsibility to contribute to quality. Exercise professional skepticism. Fulfill ethical requirements. Perform procedures, the AEIOU, without missing anything. The DADA 3. Don't allow budget or resource constraints to reduce quality. And that is why at the contracting stage, you must ensure that your letter of engagement spells out compensation very well. Supervision, tracking the progress of the audit to ensure the timetable can be met. Remember, most of these companies, not most, but all of them, they have strict deadlines. So ensure that you are really tracking the progress to finish in good time. Considering the competence of the team, this is very good. In the supervision, don't just bring anybody to your team member, to your team. Addressing significant matters arising and modifying the planned approach accordingly. Identifying matters for consultation, review, checking the audit work to ensure the work has been performed in accordance with professional standards, the ISAs. Appropriate consultations have taken place. The work performed supports the conclusions reached. The evidence obtained is sufficient and appropriate to support the auditor's report. Remember, you're going to be tested like that. I'll be able to show you, like now, this is the exam focus area. A common requirement in the exam is to critically evaluate the audit work already performed on an engagement and identify if the audit has been carried out to the required standard of quality. To assess the quality of the audit, consider the following. Have these international standards on auditing been followed? Has the work been allocated to the appropriate level of staff? Because I know of some, I mean, especially those days, nowadays it is really, really regretted. Those old days, you would get, for example, an audit firm, I mean, working with like 100% interns, one managing partner, and then you have interns. So even when these interns go to the clients to go and collect evidence, I mean, the clients will be able to outshine them. The clients will be able to see these guys, they know nothing. So you must ensure that you have got great expertise. Interns, bring them, but for training. Bring them, but for training, not actual execution of work. Take them to ground. Once in this case here, they are able to, I mean, show that now they have some competencies. Has the audit been performed in accordance with the audit plan? Because there must be a plan, an audit plan. Has the audit been properly supervised and reviewed? That is why if you have ever seen, I'll be able to show you in our tomorrow's class, I mean, an example of a working paper. Working paper must have a section for a signature for a preparer, a signature for a reviewer, and the dates are very important. So I'll be able to scan one, of course, hiding the client, and then I show you like how do these working papers look like. It's very important because now you are doing the advanced audit. After this, you should be, I mean, after getting the enough experience, then you should become practitioners. All right. Now, ladies and gentlemen, from there, you'll have to allow me to skip this. And then if you allow me, it's only 2 pages, 2 or 3, let me just check here. 2 or 3 pages, I think. Yeah, there are 3, and all of them, you can see most of them are just diagrammatic. So if you allow me, give me just maximum 10 minutes. Yes, they are not very many. They're not very many. Then I'll be able to speak through this, just to ensure that everything now is syncing properly. And practice management. So practice management, we said, among the things you must look at is tendering, obtaining professional work, engagement letters, pretty fast. So tendering, how do you get the jobs here? The process of quoting a fee for work before it is carried out. This has led to increased competition within the audit marketplace. Risks of tendering include, you can tender and then you don't get a job. You've wasted a lot of time. So wasted time, setting a low fee, making unrealistic claims, promises, in order to win what year? The contract. Matters to consider before submitting a tender. Do you have enough resources? Do you have enough competencies? Are you independent? Ethical threats? What risks are you able to envision? Are there any specialist skills needed? And can you afford them? Can you be able to bill the amounts in these tender documents? Potential for profitability. I mean, I told you from the word go that auditing firms are businesses. Is there a possibility of additional services? Contents of a tender proposal, the fee and how it has been calculated, you have to show that. Proposed audit partner and the key members of the audit team. Capacity of the audit partner to commit sufficient time to the audit. Relevant experience of the industry and type of company. Ability of the firm to bring insight and value and a show understanding of the company's values and the strategies and objectives. Proposed approach to the audit, e.g. use of technology and innovation such as data analytics. The firm's audit quality track record and the commitment to provide a quality service. Ability to maintain independence and the challenge management. Nature, purpose, and legal requirements of an audit. Let me ask you guys a question. Is there anybody here who has ever seen a question on this tendering in their past papers? Anybody who has ever seen a tendering question in their past papers? It seems none. It seems nobody has ever seen tendering questions, eh? Okay, fine. Like the tendering, who sends the tender document, client or audit firm, and be able to answer that. Remember, I'm the one who is tendering. It's our own company, CPA, tendering to audit Safaricom. So I'm the one asking for the, so I'm the one who is tendering to do. So I'm the one who is sending the documents. Of course, the documents, if you look at the website procurement, these guys will give you like documents to fill, simply because they want standardized tender documents. Otherwise, tender everything, in this case, the documents belongs to the person who is going to offer the service. Yeah, we'll be able to see those questions. But now at least you have a high level knowledge of what tendering is all about. And of course, they ask you, for example, like contents in a tender document. Contents in a tender document. I mean, there are those things that you can't forget. For example, the key management team, their experiences. I mean, the fees and the basis of you charging. You must showcase and tell us that for sure, you know at a high level what Safaricom as a company is. I mean, it's about you trying to tell us that for sure, I'm able to do this work. I'm able to do this work. The moment you have that high level understanding, this is a paper you'll be able to pass one touch. All right, so then you'll be able to allow me to move on. Assessment is about the tender. assessment of the client's requirements and how the audit firm will meet them, ability of the firm to offer other services. You must mention that, I mean, when you come over there, then there is this. Obtaining professional work. Obtaining professional work, advertising and publicity. Of course, we can advertise. Nobody should teach you that we don't advertise at all. We can advertise. But in this case, ensure that you are basically giving information. Ensure that whatever material you are doing will not bring disrepute to the ISPAC. Discredit services offered by others should not be misleading. All right, should not be misleading. So don't start telling people that if you hire me, then your firm processes will really, no. All right. And again, of course, you can't, like how we advertise firms is, for example, in social media. When AEIOU and Co, we have a big event. All right. So we take photos, put there. So that people can just get to know that there is this AEIOU and what year, AEIOU and Co. And even, for example, blogging information. For example, you can do a blog and say why firms in Kenya need auditing services. And then, of course, down there, you go and decide what year AEIOU and Co, you're putting your website there. We believe that high quality jobs, auditing jobs should be able to sell by themselves through referrals. But at the end of the day, you can't tell me that Mwalimu, now I'm going to stay in darkness. No. What we are saying, you can throw in a word outside there, but ensure that you are not discrediting the profession. Ensure that you're not discrediting your colleagues in the industry. You're not saying that AEIOU and Co is better than PwC. No. All of us in this case here are the same. And that is why we did professional exams. That is why in CPA, you will never hear that somebody has gotten first-class honors. Even in medicine, it is just a pass. You'll never see, for example, this guy is getting 80%. So long as you've passed, we make an assumption that all of us are equal. All of us are equal. So you cannot discredit others. Fees, based of calculating fees should be pre-agreed and mentioned in the engagement letter to avoid disputes. Fees should be charged, bearing in mind factors such as staff seniority, expertise, time spent, apportionable overheads, risks involved. Contingency fees, and this is very popular in the exams, contingency fees is never allowed for audit and assurance work. I hope you guys know what contingency fees is. The fee that will be paid to you depending on the opinion you will give. That if I do this, any contingent fee, any fee in this case that is dependent on some outcomes, fee that is dependent on some certain outcomes, that is never allowed in auditing. Because that would mean that if we will give a bad opinion, then we should not invoice. No, this is just like a doctor. If a doctor takes you to theater and you die, will those doctors in this case here still be paid? If a doctor takes you to theater and you die, if a doctor takes you to theater and you die, then automatically, ladies and gentlemen, these people will be paid. Even morgues are paid. I remember very well some time back, there is a doctor who came to our home, and this doctor was trying to help, in this case here, some cow there, and then that cow died. And then my old man was trying to make an argument that I can't pay, he had to pay because, there was some medicine that had gone into this cow. So the same case here. For us, we are billing on hours. We are billing on hours here. We spend 10 hours, we spend 30 hours, we spend 300 hours to do your engagement, and then please, 300 times 10,000, please. Whether you're giving a bad report, this is mandatory. You have to pay. Almost there. Issues to consider prior to accepting an engagement: professional clearance from the outgoing auditor, independence and objectivity, management integrity. This is key for me. Management integrity. Actually, when I go to a company and then I get, most of these companies will tell you, you know what, we don't like paying taxes. That to me is a red flag. It's a red flag. That is a red flag. Once you realize that these guys are not open-minded, they're not straightforward thinking Kenyans, then straight away, you really need to consider, especially once you have, when you are starting this work, you may consider even some of those dirty jobs. But there's a place once you start reaching, like now where AEIOU and core is. I mean, I would not want to deal with a director as well, straightforward. Because at the end of the day, they'll put your own firm into disrepute. When in this case here, their matter goes outside there in media, then automatically you'll also be entangled in between there. You will also be, in this case, you're taken through the mud. So then we have resources. These are very, very important. Risks involved. There are firms I can't touch. Firms in this case with very high risks, like banks. And I mean, even if I reach there, I don't think I want to audit a bank. That's why I have also not gone into circles. Of course, I know they are good, but I mean, for now, not yet. The fees, am I competent enough? Representation of the client, preconditions for an audit. This we have to look at them. All right. All right. Let me check here. Yeah, risk. Somebody is saying there that there is insurance, but you know, like what they will do, even if insurance is there for indemnity, at the end of the day, there are risks that you won't be able to do what here. You won't be able. For example, I'm not saying that they are very bad, but if, for example, your firm today was to be taken up to audit KEMSA, or I mean, there are firms that once you get into, not unless you are very, very keen, you can easily say bye-bye to audit. You can easily say bye-bye to audit. You guys may have to be able to understand that. Once you start auditing, once you get this kind of a license, once you get this kind of a license to audit, and you know you have to protect it quite a lot, then you will come and tell me, Mwalimu, one day you told us this, and now we are seeing it. Now you are seeing it. Great. All right. No. Shells. Sorry. So we go back here. I'm finishing in the next 5 minutes. All of us should have moved out of here. Yes. Procedures necessary before accepting a new client. Where the organization previously had an auditor, same principles apply in respect of changes of appointment for all recurring professional work. Member asked to accept nomination as an auditor. So the member, first of all, they ask out on the company, accept in this case here our nomination as an auditor. In an AGM, I say yes. Then what do I do immediately? Request prospective clients permission to communicate with the existing auditor. Remember, I haven't fully accepted. If permission is refused, I decline nomination. If permission given, request in writing all information necessary to decide whether or not to accept nomination. If permission is given, then I will write to the outgoing auditor to, ask them why I should accept or reject this nomination here. Then you continue here. On receipt of my request, the existing auditor can't just give me information without talking to the client. On receipt, existing auditor requests permission of client to communicate with nominee proposed. If permission refused, proposed nominee should decline nomination. So if this person is not given permission to talk to me, if he doesn't talk to me, then I will decline. If permission is given, existing auditor should discuss freely with the proposed nominee all matters relevant to the appointment, including him giving me previous period working papers. Of course, those ones normally they are for the auditor, all right? But if audit fees has been paid as per the agreement, then they should be able to surrender them to us. Kirosi, I'll be able to answer that. It's very good. Their firms have not want audit, even if it's about money. Now engagement letter is the last one. I told you this is the last one. This is the last one. And this was asked the other day, engagement letters. The terms of engagement are recorded in a written audit engagement letter, and they should include, you could have so many things, but should include the objective and scope of the audit. And you will see most auditors saying that our work is to review the financial statements given to us. And at the end of the day, we shall be able to provide what here? An opinion. So basically, we are scoping the work. We are scoping the work. Because if we don't tie down those things very well, there will be an expectations gap where people think that you have come in as a panacea to all their problems. I mean, there are places we go, like some of these tea factories. So you get at the end of the day, at the end of the AGM, in the AGM, there are even people climbing on stools and the chairs there, on tables, saying that these auditors are very bad. Now we even have a tax matter like that has happened to me, not once, not twice. And yet, I mean, I'm an auditor, external auditor. My work is basically to look at systems, including like now that particular client had even given them a management letter that their taxes were not good. If I spot something mine is true, simply raise it up. Or once I've raised this up in a management letter, for example, then I expect you either to subcontract that work, or rather to give out that work, or do it yourself, or even give it to my firm. So you haven't given me the work, and now here you are dancing, shouting on top of your voice that these people did not look at our tax matter, and yet they were our auditors. You know, outside here, really, what you're supposed to be doing and what the public expects us to be doing, there is normally a big, big gap, very, very big gap. So in this case here, that gap can not only be closed to some great level if we tie down everything in an engagement letter. And that is why in this engagement letter, we must also discuss the responsibilities of the directors, the responsibilities of the directors. So we have the responsibilities of the auditor, the responsibility of the management, identification of the applicable financial reporting framework, which to us is IFRS, the expected form and the content of reports to be issued. Normally we issue a management letter to show weaknesses, and then we issue, in this case here, the auditor's OTOP opinion. Any other letter, any other report would be incidental. Now, ladies and gentlemen, please listen and listen to me very, very well. When I come in my next class, now I've laid down a foundation. This particular class I've done is just for laying down a foundation. And then now I'll be able to look at great things like group auditing, etc. I'll be able to send these notes to you. Please remember, we are doing this last mile. And I'm happy that most of you have joined this last mile. So like now, audit, I've already given you a timetable. We're going to be having this audit on a daily basis. And you will be surprised in those, say, the whole of next week, the kind of audit you have known will be immense. Because as I told you, most of your exams, they are not like what you guys have been studying in class. They are very, very practical. And now given that I practice, then you guys are good to go. So this last mile classes, you're only paying 400 bob per subject. And which papers do we have? AAA, AMA, we have AFR. We have in this case here, leadership and what here? Leadership and management. There are four papers. Although there are students who are also asking whether we can talk to Teacher Felix to also do tax, although for now there are 4 like that. And of course, this is our pay bill. This is our pay bill. Our pay bill is 62, 42, 839. 62, 42, 839. Account, you simply write SPR, special revision. What do I need to do for me to be able to get a license like the one Mwalimu you have there? It's very easy. Get attached to an audit firm, especially during busy seasons. During busy seasons like ourselves, this season ending June, it's quite busy. We normally work with attachees. So get attached, and then you start building your experience, audit experience like that. All right. And then what I would advise, like some of us, we got into this by doing this filing of returns. Start filing returns for people. Start computing obligations here. Simple things here. Start doing them. The moment you start doing them, then automatically people will start knowing that, you're already a practitioner, in quotes, eh? Yeah, because if cyber people are doing it, you can do it much better. But the most important thing, please ensure that you have a mentor in the industry, and then you'll be able to do very well. There is a lot. Actually, myself, I normally see myself even this teaching, maybe 2 or 3 years from today. Otherwise, I would want to do audit full time because I know what audit has. Because audit will open doors for you for what your tax consultant tax have money. You appear in a tribunal. You get tax tribunal, you get good money like that. Although I can't leave teaching again, it's very, very addictive, but I'm just encouraging you. Actually, there is a line that most of you should be able to take, is this line of practitioner. You can easily, get into serious money without any serious employment. So I hope you guys have enjoyed today's session. Is there somebody who can say, Mwalimu, I've understood something? Not after exam. I always prefer that January. From January, you normally get a lot of work. You can't actually manage the work we get. Yeah, from January. From January, we can talk. From January, can talk. If you come. And again, my students, in this case, I also encourage you to ensure that my farm and company gets, in this case, here, great audit assignments from you people. Bookkeeping. If you have some bookkeeping services, give them to us. All right. Of course, maybe where you're working, you are working at a senior role, and now your company has made a decision to do what you to subcontract bookkeeping. You bring it to us. We have very good people over there. And once we have enough jobs, that means what here, our students also getting jobs at our farm, which is based at Corner House, 13th floor. Thank you so much. Have a good day, and bye. You are very good. Because you'll be surprised. What you're able to do with that knowledge is immense. Thank you. Bye. See you later.